So you have Anil Seth, who believes that, in short, that AI really can't become conscious and that it is a myth, right? But I would venture to say that if you went toward animism and more so toward neoplatonism, and you took seriously what Michael Levin is putting forth, is that, or Douglas Brash, right, where you begin to see this form and this requirement of allostatic biosemiotic form. That is, even the organs themselves most likely have individual consciousness that's part of a networking or a language model networking system. But Anil Seth saying that AI, right, consciousness or sentience would be a jump, right? Because you would almost have to go, okay, if a human being is so-called conscious, which I don't believe that human beings are fully, like, we are the representative of trillions of organisms that require us to think and operate a certain way conditionally in order to garner or gain the provisions required for to sustain life for a certain amount of time. And then, of course, from that decay, from natural decay, comes even more life, right? And there's this transition. But fundamentally, if we go back to Neoplatonism and we assume, well, everything has consciousness, a rock has consciousness, we just don't understand the attachments, the connection to this organized language model in transmission of what it requires through its own adjacency, that is, other rocks, other minerals, read on a level that we don't fully understand, or maybe we are using. And when we measure things like radiation or carbon rot, we're really missing something, right? Or carbon decay, we're really missing the broader picture of what else that represents, if we were to put that into some different language. But to say that AI isn't conscious, then you would have to come up with the fact that, well, if everything's conscious and you're actually giving a conduit and a method and an energy networking for energy distribution, a neural networking, how in the fuck could you say that it's not conscious when consciousness can jump off the page when you just put a certain number of any items together? There is a cymatic echo chamber interference pattern dialogue, a dialectic taking place, right? Just by imposing a number. And you could then jump toward the zodiac, toward the tarot, and say, well, then there is no validity to the mystic or the magician or anything else that Michael Tessarian's talking about to late. And it's this whole, thing that Jason Rezza-Georgiani discusses when he does discuss over the years this Promethean torch or Promethean flame, or this focus on Prometheus. It's to say that society means to and has a cult to break down and destroy Prometheus, right? And Prometheus having his liver eaten by Zeus, commanded by Zeus, right, by the main god to withstand incurable suffering, right? The god's looking at you. The god is omniscient, so to speak, but not really. Like, there's this fallibility and this expiry that's placed on these gods. Actually, when you look at Horus and so forth, at least it from a limited stance where the entire collective of the origins or the original Horus um, just refinding himself, right? The golden phallus would be um, would then change the persona or the personality or the outlook, right? To where being and becoming would no longer from the original state would no longer be um, the sort of idle metabolism would no longer be able to withstand the heightened fight or flight alertness, right? That if you were to take these gods and say, let's superimpose the same gods into modern day, and to take this antiquity and say, let's establish this here. The gods themselves would go through a morphology, right? To where they no longer represented the same constants and the same truths because they were challenged by minds that had to be disproved as lesser, right? So we're in a time where the lesser mind has been nourished, and so it gets into this whole thing where I was initially talking about this with Seth, and he was defended recently by Kurt Jamungo when Zizek, Slavoj Zizek, was kind of, you know, doing a little sniper negging, probably just to edge out a better correspondence or a better statement from him, right? As to say, give me more foundational proof, right? That you can't just come out with some sort of operating system, like everything that consciousness is supposed to do. AI delivers. It can deliver randomness. It can deliver um, the matriculation of teaching or corresponding a specific subject matter. Now you could say, "Oh, this just is just the exploitation of open source information," but isn't that what learning, what language is, language acquisition, and what sharing information is? It's like the truth is that when you look at the human contribution of getting so comfortable with a particular subject that you stew in it and that you're able to come up with some sort of metaphysical explanation, right? Isn't that the overburdensome moment when there's too much stewing, when there's too much staying on one particular subject, to where that would only come from the like Michael Segru talked about in his last videos. He was fully displaying that without the sedentary notion of being able to sit around the house, conjecture about certain topics and subjects, having enough food for a sustained period of time, enough warmth, enough comfort, and enough um, release from disparate release from the inevitable, which is that big animal is going to come after you and that you are food, right? That it's to separate oneself from the fact that you had to learn on your feet. You had to learn through high pressure situations, and you couldn't just formally uh, postulate a foundational um, uh, area, a matriculation of discourse, right? That was based on philosophical imaginary fantasy of a particular subject as to be an object in order for it to solidify itself. No, you had to prove yourself, like when we're talking about the passing of the gauntlet, but particularly back to the Promethean flame, is that to discount AI right? And the ability, like you're watching it transitionally, right? It's almost like taking a 1 year old and going, the thing's just not going to grow. We gave it a year. I mean, we put mother's milk into it. We sang it songs, and look at it. It's still just stupid. It has this big, neoteny based head and big eyeballs, and is so full of itself. Fuck this thing. We're walking away from it. It's never going to learn. It's never going to grow, right? And it's almost like looking at AI in such a way, um, or noetics versus. I think you understand where I'm going with this. Kind of fusing parallel terms, but the knowing aspect versus the forever child, right? And so you come into this, and aspects of AI is able to maintain itself as sort of this burgeoning baby or child, and at the same time through this layering system that Ben Gortzall really talks about, espouses to, which it sounds like that's what Hyperon is really reaching toward, is to almost take this, for lack of a better, this pre-quantum entanglement of multiple layers, and to say all of those identify the AI networking system, but it has to have these different organs within the brain. It can't just have a neurons and a nervous system and even a quasi glandular system. It has to have all 9 layers that the human body has, plus more, because it's juggling more information, right? Um, I think that we, as human beings, uh, think that these rate coding signals travel faster or can travel faster um, than 220 miles per hour from node of Ranvier to node of Ranvier, right? From axon helix to axon helix, if you will. But without blowing out your Schwann cells, and right. So I think that that humans made an interface that they don't understand yet, that is now going through the maturation process where it's completing itself. And to say that AI doesn't have consciousness, I believe, is going to be entirely laughable and make people who make those types of statements look like the short sighted fools throughout antiquity.